much time to talk to a researcher because I barely scratched the surface with mine, but her research was fascinating. So hopefully at the end you'll have some more time to talk to the people at your table. As I mentioned before, I'm Dr. Malika Marshall. Some of you may know me from my work as a health reporter for WBZ TV, but I'm also a practicing physician at Mass General. And in both of my lines of work, I know how critically important it is that we do everything we can to continue making progress in the fight against cancer. I know, as do all of you, that we can save lives through cancer research. And that's, again, why I'm so happy to welcome you here to the 10th annual ACS CAN New England Research Breakfast here at Boston's beautiful stateroom. I just flew in from Nevada. I got in at about 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was 105 degrees in Las Vegas over the weekend. And I am hotter here this morning in Boston than I was there. So I know everybody's a little warm. It's the reason that we lowered the shades and we've tried to drop the temperature so that know that people are working on it. But we have a really good program here for you this morning and a lot of ground to cover in the next hour. As you'll hear throughout breakfast, the American Cancer Society, CAN, is making a bold, compelling call to Americans across the country to advocate to their elected officials about the importance of cancer research as a national priority. And thanks to your support, we have made a good deal of progress. To continue to inspire that progress, we are very fortunate to have, are we fortunate to have, is the mayor here? Mayor? Maybe not yet, but hopefully he's on his way. And we'll also hear from leaders of both the American Cancer Society and the Society's advocacy affiliate, also known as ACS CAN, about the important work that they're doing in New England and nationwide. One of our program highlights will be remarks by Dr. Daniel Haber. Where is he? Hi, Dr. Haber, my compatriot at Mass General. He is director of Mass General's Cancer Center. And we'll also hear from a local survivor who can speak firsthand about the importance of the work being done by cancer researchers across this country. We will wrap up our morning recognizing a family whose leadership and philanthropic commitment has helped improve cancer fighting efforts across the Commonwealth and beyond. So we're going to get started, and I have been asked to ask you to set your phones to vibrate. Not beepers anymore. Does anybody carry a pager anymore? Ever? Yeah? A few doctors in here doing it? Well, set that to vibrate too. And it is now my absolute pleasure to introduce, put your passcode in now on your phone, she's going to be doing something at the end of her remarks, the Executive Director of the American Cancer Society, Northern New England, Holly Grant.
Great, good morning. How are you guys doing?
Good morning.
It's great to be here, and on behalf of the American Cancer Society, it is my true pleasure to welcome you to the 10th annual American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network New England Research Breakfast. I'd like to start by thanking our incredible volunteer leaders who helped create this amazing morning. So let me start with Dr. Mark Goldberg. Where is Dr. Mark? Mark is the chair for our breakfast this year. He is an incredible volunteer with us. He currently serves on the American Cancer Society New England Board of Directors, as well as chairing this event. So thank you so much, Mark, for your leadership. Our Breakfast Council also includes leaders from across Massachusetts, from the Massachusetts economy and healthcare sectors, banking, architecture firms, and healthcare systems. So I would like to invite the members of the ACS CAN Research Breakfast Council, if you could all stand so we can thank you and salute you for your commitment in pulling this together today. And at this time, I'd also like to recognize a couple of other people who are in the room. We have some current and past board of director members here. Dr. Tracy Battaglia. Tracy, where are you? She is the chair of our New England board. Oh, she's up there. Dave Glidden, Dennis Cataldo, and Dr. David Rosenthal. So thank you for joining us. I'd also like to recognize and thank Sandy Cassesi. She's from our National Board of Directors of ACS CAN, who's here today. So Sandy, good morning. Thank you for joining us. As well as Chris Kim, who's our Executive Vice President for the Northeast region of the American Cancer Society. So Chris, thank you for joining us as well. So we have a great morning for you, and you heard first from our researchers, and we are very excited. We have 30 American Cancer Society researchers and cancer professionals with us this morning that you just heard from. And we are so proud to invest in these researchers and hold steadfast the belief that their knowledge, passion, and determination will lead to improved outcomes for all individuals affected by cancer. So I was wondering if we could ask the ACS-funded grant recipients if you could all stand so we can recognize you and thank you for your work. Today, and we are so grateful to more than 35 table sponsors and contributors who have supported us today. And I wanted to take a minute to recognize, starting at the bronze level, we have AbbVie, Akebia Therapeutics, AstraZeneca, Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, Boston Children's Hospital, Cataldo Ambulance Service, Celgene, EYP Architecture and Engineering, Harvard Medical School, Kite Pharma, Leahy Health Cancer Institute, Massachusetts General Cancer Center, Moderna Therapeutics, Momenta Pharmaceuticals, Morgan Lewis and Bacchius LLP, Parexel, Sarepta Therapeutics, TD Bank, Tesaro, and X4 Pharmaceuticals. So thank you to those at the bronze level. Really appreciate all your support. Our silver level sponsors include Bristol Myers Squibb, Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, Partners Healthcare, Sanofi Genzyme, and Takeda Oncology. So thank you so much to our silver sponsors. And our gold sponsors are Hologic and Purdue Pharma. So thank you to our gold sponsors. And finally, a huge thank you to our presenting sponsor, EMD Serono. Thanks to all of you and your generous support. Today's event has raised more than $340,000, and these dollars will be deployed to support the relentless efforts by ACS CAN to make certain that cancer research rises and remains a priority at the state and federal levels. We're also proud that last year the American Cancer Society announced our commitment to double our annual investment in funding for the coming years, which means that moving forward, the Society will each year add about $250 million to our research funding to fund even more investigators like the ones sitting at your table this morning. So we're excited about that. So before I get off the stage, I do have one request, all right? And that's what Malika was talking about with my cell phone. Of course, Apple changed my passcode on me over the weekend. Of course, never makes it easy. So we're hoping that while you're here with us this morning, that you will take a moment to promote the importance of continued cancer research funding and share your breakfast experience on social media. So we encourage you to post and tweet using our hashtag #ResearchBreakfast and our handle at ACS CAN MA. Both are listed on your breakfast materials. So I wanted to take a minute right now and take a quick photo of all of you here so I can document this and post this on our ACS CAN Twitter account. So give me a second here. Just take a picture of all of you and this amazing turnout we have this morning. So thank you again for spending the morning with us. Thank you for your continued commitment to cancer research funding. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Chris Hansen. Chris is the president of ACS CAN. He's headquartered in Washington, D.C., and he leads a staff team of around 250 and thousands of volunteers in every single congressional district across the country that advocate for policies to increase research funding. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Holly, for all your great work in this event. Forgive me, I'm a little gimpy. I've got a gimpy hip. But I have to say, it's great to see everybody here this morning. The success that we're having is because of you. It's because of the support that we have from everybody like you, and it's also from the support that we have from people in the public. When we do polling on the issues that we work on, the public supports us on everything we do all the time. So it's really an exercise in democracy. Cancer takes the life of one person in this country every minute of every day. Think about that for just a minute. Cancer takes the life of one person in this country every minute of every day. The reason that we're, even as we're making tremendous progress in creating more cancer survivorship, that is still a case, and it's still a case because of the increase in incidence of cancer because of the aging of the population. So we are making tremendous progress, but we can't stop. Fighting cancer has to be a national priority, and that's really what we're working on. And it's what we're working toward, frankly, is we want to put ourselves out of business. It's going to take a while, but that's really what we're working toward. ACS CAN advances our mission through the most basic human terms, with the stories of real people who've lost loved ones to cancer or have battled the disease themselves, and those who've lost their livelihoods in some cases, and sometimes their life savings in the process. We try to educate elected officials, candidates for public office. We support legislation and policies at the federal, state, and local levels. We work to increase and sustain federal government and state and federal government investments in cancer research, improving access to care, strengthening tobacco control, and also helping patients have a better quality of life. We spend a lot of time, and we've got a big coalition that we built on palliative care, trying to give people palliative care from the point of diagnosis on for people that have serious illnesses like cancer, so that they have a quality of life. The good news is that there are more and more cancer survivors, so sustaining that quality of life is very important. What makes ACS CAN different? And I would say that it's the sheer force of our sophisticated, well-trained, effective volunteer network. With a lot of them in this room, a lot of them that helped create this event, made up of patients, survivors, caregivers, experts, lawyers, business people. We have more types of people and more capability in our grassroots network than you can imagine. And we work through coordinated activity in every congressional district in the country. We have a volunteer leader in every state in the country, and we have a volunteer leader in every congressional district in the country, and then we have grassroots under that, and then we have wonderful people from all the communities that are represented here today that help us. We also are supported by professionals, policy professionals, government relations professionals, and then because we don't contribute political money to anybody, we do things like, in addition to our grassroots, we have something that we call media advocacy, which is basically where we teach people in the media about cancer and what impacts it and how to fight it, and we help. They follow the stories and they shed light on it in a very meaningful way. So I think you all know that there's legislation that's being considered right now to replace the Affordable Care Act and to replace it with something else. The House passed a piece of legislation that I don't think any health group in the country actually supported, to my knowledge. We've got the Senate working on something now. I don't think that we know exactly what's going to come out of it, but it's very important. And whether it's really ultimately going to be a repeal of the Affordable Care Act, or whether it's going to actually turn out to be something that they call a repeal of the Affordable Care Act, but is actually a fixing of the Affordable Care Act, we're not sure. But it has to happen pretty soon because of the if they have a repeal bill, it has to pass the Senate by June 30th, and that basically gives the Congress 1 month before the August recess to merge the House and Senate bills and to get something done. This is very important because patients need the care, patients need the insurance. One of the things that we're working on is trying to preserve critical patient protections, prohibiting discrimination based on health history, banning annual and lifetime insurance coverage limits, guaranteeing access to essential health benefits regardless of where somebody lives. That's not so much of an issue in Massachusetts, but it's a very big issue in some other parts of the country. Health coverage also has to be affordable, both in premium and in total out-of-pocket costs. Income-based premium tax credits, cost-sharing reductions, and Medicaid expansion work together to maximize the number of people who can buy health coverage. Unfortunately, a flat credit along with Medicaid cuts would greatly limit the ability of millions of people to afford the access to the health care that they need. And we know from any number of studies that we've done that when people are not appropriately insured, the cancer outcomes, not surprisingly, are far worse. It's discovered at a far later stage, harder to treat, more expensive to treat, more painful, more excruciating for the patient. So we are working to prevent that kind of a situation. We're also trying to prevent continuous coverage requirements that could wind up actually discriminating against those who can't work due to illnesses like cancer, or who have to take a leave to care for a loved one who has cancer. And so we're trying to make sure that we don't do something that accidentally hurts a lot of people. I have to commend the leaders in Massachusetts. Governor Baker has led advocacy for Medicaid funding for the state. I salute his leadership in this area. Mayor Walsh has been a leader in a variety of areas as well, as you'll hear later. Let me talk just for a second about federal funding of cancer research, which has been a big focus of ours. We were very successful in fiscal year 17, the year that we're currently in terms of spending. We got a $2 billion increase for NIH, including $475 million increase for the National Cancer Institute. It maintained funding for the cancer control programs in the CDC, and that was wonderful news. Unfortunately, there is a budget that was proposed by the new administration that basically would cut funding for NIH by $7.2 billion, or 21%, including a $1.2 billion cut to the National Cancer Institute and an $18 million cut to the CDC cancer control programs, which would also eliminate the Office of Smoking and Health in the CDC, which would be a very bad thing to do. So we are responding with our lobbying. We are leading a coalition called One Voice Against Cancer. We are mobilizing our grassroots all across the country. We have our social media campaigns that are going on. I just want to mention the fact that we're also part of an organization called United for Medical Research, and there are people sitting in this room that are involved in that also, from Boston University, MIT, Harvard, Thermo Fisher, and a number of other organizations. That organization has estimated that the funding for NIH in fiscal year 16 supported 380,000 jobs and $65 billion in economic activity. If the budget that's currently proposed were enacted, 90,000 jobs would be lost and $15 billion, and there'd be $15 billion in lost economic activity. So we can't allow this to happen. I think the good news is I think we can stop it, and we're working very hard to do it, and your being here today is helping us to do that. I want to just mention quickly, in Massachusetts, we are pressing for the passage of a youth tobacco prevention bill here in Massachusetts. We've had a number of events working on that. Our state's annual lobby day and Tobacco Free Massachusetts Coalition Lobby Day. We're also particularly focused on the T21 aspect of this bill, which is prohibiting the sale of tobacco to people that are under the age of 21, and we're very pleased that Governor Baker has publicly supported the bill. I am going to pause and go to back to our moderator at this point, because we're waiting for the mayor to come, and I don't think he's here yet. So we will re-engage at that point in time.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, the mayor is on his way, so we will work him in when he gets here. But we are also fortunate to have other respected names in local politics here with us today, including Felix Arroyo, who is Boston's Chief of Health and Human Services. And where is he? Oh, there you are. Of course, the head table. And we're also joined today by Morgan Bell, who's a representative from Congressman Seth Moulton's office. So thank you both for being here today. Now I'm pleased to introduce a good friend of the American Cancer Society and ACS CAN, Gary Zazula, who's President and Managing Director of EMD Serono. Did I do it right? Fabulous. Gary has played a key role in the advancing and supporting the great work that is done every day at EMD Serono to help fight cancer. He joined EMD Serono in 2014 and has over 30 years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry. Gary.
Thank you, Malika. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this beautiful venue, and I hope I don't have to do any stand-up comedy and waiting for the mayor to come, because I'm really not prepared. So I'll forge ahead. First, let me say how much pleasure it is for us at EMD Serono to be here. All of us are powered by the relentless drive to bring innovation that matters to people living with cancer. We have supported this event and have stood with ACS CAN and the much-needed dialogue and action they so relentlessly drive for a decade now, for 10 years, so it's really amazing and strong commitment on the part of the company. The voices that ACS CAN brings to the Hill and every state house around the country are really critical. Without the grassroots presence to remind regulators about the true needs of real-life people living with cancer, we wouldn't be where we are today, and we couldn't truly move forward in our fight against cancer. Everyone here in this room is joined in a common battle against cancer. We know firsthand the devastation it can inflict. We understand the crushing impact that it has on families, and really everyone is affected. The conversations happening here today and the support of everyone in this room and beyond are an important step in making breakthroughs in cancer possible. I want to wish a special thank you to Chris Hansen and his entire team, the organization's commitment and progress for putting together important rallying points like today's event here this morning in this beautiful venue. So thank you for letting us be part of it. We will continue to stand beside all of you in our collective mission to end cancer. Thank you and have a great morning.
Is he here? No. So thank you, Gary, and thank you for your continued partnership and support of ACS CAN. Now I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Daniel Haber, who's the director of Mass General Hospital's Cancer Center, and the I never got a good pronouncer for this, Isselbacher? Fabulous, professor of oncology at Harvard Medical School. Dr. Haber has a long history of accomplishments in cancer research here in Boston. He completed his medicine residency at MGH, clinical oncology training at the Dana-Farber, postdoctoral research at MIT, before joining the MGH and Harvard faculty in 1991. We are fortunate to have such esteemed professionals as Dr. Haber here in the Boston area, and honored that he could be here at this year's breakfast. Dr. Haber.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marshall, and thank you to ACS CAN for the invitation to speak this morning. Only the American Cancer Society can get so many exceptional people to get up so exceptionally early in the morning. But seriously, the breadth, the depth, and the impact of ACS is palpable this morning, with soon the mayor of Boston sharing this breakfast meeting with so many healthcare providers, clinicians, scientists, advocates representing our entire community. As you know, ACS is and has always been the most powerful and long-standing advocate for cancer care and for cancer research. In the research community, the ACS focus on supporting young faculty at our Boston institutions has had a very real impact in sustaining a research enterprise that's the envy of the world and which is widely appreciated as one of the trademarks of Boston. We do seem to be living in an increasingly complicated time, and ACS is exceptional in bringing together a blend of science and social action, discovery and advocacy that are needed to bring us together and move the field forward. As cancer researchers, we live in a paradox. We've witnessed unparalleled progress over the past decade with fundamental discoveries about cancer and dramatic applications of these discoveries to change clinical reality. Patients with cancer are living longer with better, more focused treatments and better quality of life. And in cancer research labs throughout Boston and the world, there's a constant hum of energy and excitement about the promise of ongoing discoveries. Yet at the same time, federal funding continues to drop, and we're now starting to see the long-term consequences with fewer trainees choosing a career in research and promising research faculty, even in our very own elite Boston institutions, just struggling to stay afloat. The mission of ACS to communicate this discrepancy between what's possible today in cancer research and what it takes to sustain and nourish it at this critical juncture is now more important than ever. Some 50 years ago, President Nixon declared the war on cancer, and we all sometimes worry that too much was promised too early. But if you look back on the past 50 years of fundamental research and discovery, that's where we learned all we know today about what drives cancer cells to grow and what are the key targets for medical therapies. In the past 10 years, we've seen a true revolution with precision drugs homing in on genetic targets that were identified with powerful clinical results in some leukemias, lung cancer, melanoma, and breast cancer. Let's call that wave number one. And the major challenge here is now combining these targeted therapies so they can be effective in more cancers for longer periods of time. And we're now surfing on wave number two, the immunotherapy revolution. It's based on the most holistic of concepts, using your own body's immune system to fight cancer. And the clinical results in many cases of melanoma and some cases of lung, colon, and other cancers are absolutely astounding. But the side effects can involve inflammation in normal organs as well. And there's a real need for biomarkers that predict which patient will respond and which will not benefit. And for new strategies to extend the effectiveness of these treatments to cancers where the immune system just doesn't seem to recognize the tumor. But I really want to talk about wave number three. And that's the concept of early detection of cancer, with the goal to diagnose invasive cancers before they metastasize or before there's so many cancer cells that resistance to anti-cancer drugs becomes preordained. By the way, I'll admit I kind of made up the terminology of waves, so please don't look it up anywhere. And wave three is not yet officially recognized by ACS or any other official body for that matter. But I happen to believe in it, and I wanted to share with you this morning. We all know of rare patients who had a potentially lethal lung or pancreatic cancer that was diagnosed incidentally. The cancer was found accidentally on an X-ray performed for some other reason, a car accident perhaps, or a viral syndrome. It was resected, and the lucky patient was cured. We also know that some therapies, like the breast cancer drug Herceptin, have relatively modest and transient benefit when given to women with advanced metastatic breast cancer, but it's curative when given early in the adjuvant setting to women who just had a primary breast cancer removed. So why is that? If you imagine that there are 1 billion cancer cells in the body, it's likely that some of them will be resistant to any treatment that's given, no matter how good. But if there are only 1 million cells, then maybe the very same drugs have a chance to be curative. So far, everything I've said is totally obvious. So why don't we screen everybody every day for cancer that could be cured? As you know, it's not so easy. X-rays like mammograms or low-dose CAT scans of the lung have lots of false positives, and you can chase many shadows for every cancer that's picked up. Or cancers can arise in between the yearly X-rays. Blood tests like PSA go up with aging, and they're not so good at distinguishing between aggressive prostate cancers that are lethal or indolent prostate cancers that you should just leave alone. And this is where I believe we're poised for a new revolution in cancer diagnostics, deploying the full power of molecular biology to the early detection of cancer. There are new approaches, many new approaches that are in development, from blood tests to urine tests to imaging tests. And personally, I'm most excited about strategies to look for signs of cancer in the blood. Cancers can shed cells into the blood from the very first time they become invasive. They shed fragments of DNA into the blood. They can shed cellular fragments. And the new power of sequencing and genetic analysis, with this we can detect infinitesimal traces of these cancer cells and cancer products in the blood. The signal can be very small, almost like cosmic rays from some distant planet, but the clarity and the specificity are more powerful than anything we've ever had before. Now, we're obviously not there yet, but you can see it coming. And these are the kinds of technologies that together, I believe, will revolutionize the way we diagnose cancer and therefore the way we treat cancer. So think about it. What would happen if we did have a singular blood test or panel of tests that would enable us to diagnose the earliest stage of a lethal cancer and potentially make it curable? Well, first, we need the clinical trials to prove it. Typically, these are done with large-scale studies in people who are at increased risk or somehow predisposed to developing a particular cancer. These kinds of trials take time, they require large numbers of patients, and they're expensive. And as you know, in our society, we currently reimburse very well for drug therapies and for medical interventions. But we don't pay very much for diagnostic tests that would help us tell who benefits from a treatment or who might have an early cancer. So for clinical research on early detection and intervention to thrive, that's a model that may have to change. The other thing is the endpoint for our current clinical trials is whether the tumor shrank or whether a patient with cancer survived longer. In the future, the more difficult endpoint may have to be, was a lethal but curable cancer detected, and was it successfully treated? And also in our specialized cancer centers, we typically wait for patients to be diagnosed with cancer because they have pain or symptoms, and then we offer them treatment. How would medical practice change if we actually had the tools to screen for early invasive cancers? The critical clinicians would then be the primary care providers, not the oncologists. Perish that thought. They would need to integrate calculations of cancer risk with the appropriate screening tests. And the test would have to reliably distinguish between indolent and invasive cancers. And our very own oncology communities would have to focus on the application of minimally invasive biopsies and resections, and radiation or medical therapies in the setting of minimal disease. This is potentially a whole new approach to oncology in a very different paradigm. It would range from our research efforts to our clinical implementation. It's obviously futuristic and a little bit out there, but hopefully not as far out there as you think. And I do think that we have to reach out in this new direction if we're really going to successfully reduce the burden of cancer in the world. I want to end today by acknowledging someone who's not here with us today, but who's very much embedded within the vision that I just outlined. The man we were planning on honoring today, Henry Termeer, died tragically a few weeks ago, and you'll hear more about him later this morning from Dr. Mark Goldberg. When I was first invited to give this talk, Henry and I were supposed to speak one after the other, and we got together to review our speaking points. Henry had long been a pioneer in precision medicine. He, his wife Belinda, and their daughter Adriana had cut the ribbon at the dedication of the Termeer Center at the Mass General Cancer Center, a center which to date has enrolled 2,000 patients on over 200 first-in-human clinical trials of new cancer therapies. And Henry had recently joined with us in supporting the concept of developing blood-based liquid biopsy tests for early cancer detection. He was never afraid of a challenge, and he was always motivated by the chance to do something important that would have real impact. In that spirit and in his memory, ACS is and will continue to be the organization that brings us together, that advocates for us, and that challenges us always to do more in the fight against cancer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Haber. You're clearly passionate in your fight against cancer and give us important reasons why we need to continue to fight for funding for the NCI and for the NIH in general to continue this exponential growth in diagnosis and treatment that we've seen in the past 10 years. So thank you for laying that out for us. He's here. The mayor is here. I hope you had a little time to snarf down some food, but it doesn't look like you did. We are absolutely thrilled to have Marty Walsh here, the mayor of Boston, who himself is a cancer survivor, and we're excited to hear what you have to say.
Well, I can start by saying I'll never be late again because I don't want to follow the doctor here talking about cancer research. So thank you very much, Doc. Thank you, Malachi. I want to thank you for that introduction. I want to thank Chris and everyone at the American Cancer Society for your great work. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here today. A few other thank yous. Dr. Haber, it was great to hear you talk, and we look forward to the day when we do have the treatment for cancer. And I know that there's, on my way here today, I was talking to a brother of a firefighter who was going into Mass General today to have prostate cancer surgery. When you think about every day on our job and in the fire department, it's a constant struggle, constant conversation around cancer. And it seems like wherever we go, that's the conversation we have in a lot of ways. So I want to thank you and everyone in your field for the great work you're doing here in Boston, in the country, in the world. I also want to recognize Lynn Peters, who's here. Thank you for being here. Belinda and Adriana, thank you as well. You know, you're certainly a power of example for the people in this room, and we're glad you're joining the celebration of your dad and your husband and the great work that he has done, the progress that your family has made for so many years. So again, thank you for being here this morning with us as well. I want to thank Felix Arroyo, Chief Felix Arroyo is with us as well from Health and Human Services in the city of Boston. For all the great work that Felix does, and public health is under his cabinet. So we're constantly talking about issues and how do we make life better and healthy for people in Boston and Bostonians. Looking around this room, there's miracle workers. I want to thank the entire board of the ACA for your great work. I know this is the 10th annual breakfast, and the money and the support that you have is absolutely incredible. You're vocal advocates for cancer patients. You're visionaries in improving, certainly, the cancer prevention, something that's important. As was said earlier, you're the warriors fighting for equal access and to healthcare. Cancer research is some of the most important work of our time. These are certainly hard-earned miracles. They've changed lives, and they're changing the course of history. As was said earlier, I was diagnosed with Burkitt's lymphoma at the age of 7. My mother took me to the hospital because I had a pain in my stomach. And when I got there, they sent me home the first night. They weren't quite sure what it was. The next night I went back again. I was tired. I was just sleeping all day, all the time. And she brought me back in, and they found out that I had Burkitt's lymphoma. And they gave my mother in 1974 two options. One option was you can take him to see his grandparents in Ireland and kind of enjoy the rest of his time, or we can try this new treatment that we have, radiation and chemotherapy and a whole bunch of other drugs. My mother took the second option, and my parents took the second option. Thanks to both treatments being developed at that time, I survived. I was able to realize my dream as being mayor of the city of Boston. I've had an incredible life because of that. Because of the kinds of research that ACA is driving forward, I'm standing here today. Because of a lot of people in this room. Since that time in 1974 when I had cancer, treatment and prevention has come a long, long way. Certainly when you sit down and talk about and you think about 74 to 2017. The mortality rates have been declining since the early 90s. Thanks in large part to the National Institute of Health. NIH funding supports cutting-edge research taking place at universities, cancer centers here in Massachusetts. Boston received $1.85 billion from NIH last year alone. This funding just isn't saving lives, it's also making our growth in the life science sector to be able to look at new cures and new treatments for other diseases. Certainly, and it's helping the biotech industry as well. The White House has proposed an 18% cut to those funds. It's about a $300 million cut to the city of Boston. We're urging Washington to see scientific and economic promise as they work together. We're urging them to consider the real cuts that will hurt people and hurt research and hurt progress as we move forward here. But no matter what happens in Washington, and I do feel confident that we'll be able to win that fight in Washington, but no matter what happens in Washington, we know that the American Cancer Society will continue to drive the progress forward here in Boston in the United States of America. It's going to continue to develop new cures, save lives, push the limits of what we think is possible. I want to thank the American Cancer Society for believing in the power of science and investing in the health of all Americans. I want to thank all of you today to support this vital, life-saving work. And in particular, I want to thank the Massachusetts chapter. I want to thank all the board members that are here. I know some of them. I see Dennis Cataldo down there. I want to thank you, Dennis. Thank you for your great work. And I know Dennis is a cancer survivor. And so many other folks in this room have done that work. So I truly want to thank you for it. As mayor of the city of Boston, you have when I look at what's going on, it's a little bit of a different obligation. I remember when I first got elected to the House of Representatives, and a couple of years later, Felix got elected to the City Council. And we were talking of high cancer rates in the communities of color. And we were watching our hospitals do some work around there, Dana-Farber and Children's Hospital and some of the other hospitals in the Longwood medical area. It's important for us not to stop our work now. It's not time to slow our work down. If anything, it's time to accelerate our work. And because of the work of the ACA, we're going to be able to do that. Thank you, and it's an honor to be here with all of you this morning, and have a great rest of the morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today with us, Mayor, and sharing your story and being such a great partner in advocating for cancer research. We now get to hear a first-hand account as to why what you've heard so far this morning is critically important. Next up is Lynn Peters, a cancer survivor and a longtime ACS CAN volunteer and passionate advocate for cancer research funding. Please welcome to the podium Lynn Peters to share her powerful and personal story.
Good morning. So I'm here to tell you about my relationship with the American Cancer Society. On April 20th, 1995, on my father's 58th birthday, I listened to a doctor say, "Your father has pancreatic cancer and lung cancer." They gave him an estimated 6 months to live. On June 15th, 1995, my father died. And on Father's Day that year, went to his funeral. For a couple of years after that, I was extremely lost. My dad had been my best friend, my mentor. He taught me how to take care of myself. He taught me how to dance. He taught me how to use a slide rule. He was an amazing man, and I was having a hard time without him. I was helpless. I felt hopeless. And quite honestly, I was in a very dark place in my life. He'd been my rock, and I just didn't know how to get along without him. Then somebody asked me, "Would you join me and be a member of my team for Relay for Life?" And I said, okay. I didn't attend the relay that year, but I did raise money. I lived in Tennessee and sent my money up to the Westerly, Rhode Island Relay for Life. The next year, same person asked me to be on the team again, so I said, okay. I raised money in Tennessee, but this year I came up and I wanted to be a participant in the Relay for Life. I got there, set up my tent, set up my fundraiser. I listened to opening ceremonies, and then I watched the Survivor Lab. And I was so angry. I was so angry that my dad was not walking on that track. I thought it was so unfair that all these people were walking the track, but not my dad. And then I watched more survivors walk by me, and more survivors. And I literally fell to my knees sobbing. I was so full of hope at that moment, seeing all those people who had survived walking the track. And at that moment, I knew that I was going to do everything possible to make sure that there were more survivors and more survivors. I watched, and all in my mind, all I could think of was, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? I knew I wasn't going to stop at anything. I was going to help end suffering due to cancer. This was the first time the American Cancer Society actually saved my life. 10 years after my father passed away, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. My cancer was caught early due to a simple pap smear supported by research funded by the American Cancer Society, just like the ones you were hearing from this morning. And Dr. Haber, the wave 3 actually works. It was caught early, it was treated successfully. All because the American Cancer Society taught me that having annual exams was very important. I knew I went religiously every year. Had I not done that, it would not have been caught early. It would not have been treated successfully. This was the second time the American Cancer Society saved my life. I've been so fortunate to fight alongside the American Cancer Society and the Cancer Action Network. I'm so grateful for all the opportunities that I've had through the American Cancer Society and the Cancer Action Network. I owe my life to the American Cancer Society, and I'm going to fight until no other daughter has to lose her father. I'm going to fight until no one has to hear those words, "You have cancer, your loved one has cancer." My name is Lynn Peters, and I advocate so families in the future will no longer suffer through the needless and preventable loss of a loved one. There are some petitions on your tables, and we'd like for you to look at those and sign those. We want to increase funding for cancer research. It's so important. Again, my cancer was caught because of that research. It was caught early. We need to find more ways to catch cancer, to treat cancer, and to cure cancer. So if you'd please join me and sign those petitions, I would really be grateful. Thank you.
I think we're going to call Mark Goldberg to the stand. Yeah, come on up. Come on up. Be careful. I don't have an introduction here for Mark Goldberg, so let me introduce Mark Goldberg.
Thank you, Malika. I'd like to add my personal thanks to all the sponsors and to all those in attendance this morning, both for your support of ACS CAN and for this event in particular. I also would like to add my personal thanks to the others on the planning committee. Their names are in your program, and to Shalini Valaban and Lexa Sullivan from ACS CAN, who did a lot of the hard work to pull this program together. So thank you all. Over the last couple of years, we've expanded the program to recognize individuals who played important roles in advancing the fight against cancer. When we started doing this, it was very clear to me at the outset that given their important role through innovation, advocacy, and philanthropic contributions, Henry and Belinda Termeer would be ideal people to honor in this way, and the Planning Council and ACS CAN agreed. Having known Henry and Belinda for over 20 years, and having worked for Henry at Genzyme for 15 years, I've been looking forward to honoring them today. So this is a very bittersweet moment, since as you've heard, Henry died unexpectedly on May 12th. His passing was a tremendous loss to so many. Many of us directly benefited from his friendship and mentorship, and so many more have benefited from the results of his extraordinary efforts to bring forward novel therapies that have dramatically improved the lives of thousands of patients and their families. Our thoughts and best wishes go out to Belinda, to their daughter Adriana, son Nicholas, and to the entire family, and we're very pleased that Belinda and Adriana, you are joining us this morning. Many of Belinda and Henry's accomplishments are summarized in your program, but I do want to highlight a few. Belinda and Henry are widely recognized for their efforts, both together and individually, to make the world a better place. These efforts have ranged from healthcare and science and medicine to education, equal opportunity, and human rights. They've been members, supporters and board members of WGBH, of the Boston Ballet, and the Boston Museum of Science. With respect to their work in the fight against cancer, together they launched the Henry and Belinda Termeer Center for Targeted Therapies at Mass General to speed the discovery and delivery of new targeted therapies to patients with cancer. They also founded the Henry and Belinda Termeer Early Career Investigator Fellowship to foster collaboration between physician scientists with joint appointments at Mass General and the Harvard Medical School Laboratory of Systems Pharmacology. And this idea of collaboration is one that was very important to Henry, and you'll see it as a recurring theme. Belinda has been a member of Mass General Cancer Center's Leadership Council since 2010, and since 2014 of the 100 Selection Committee, which honors those from all walks of life who have made an impact on patients with cancer. Henry was chairman, president, and CEO of Genzyme for nearly 3 decades. Under his leadership, Genzyme grew from a modest startup venture to one of the world's leading biotechnology companies, developing transformative medicines that have dramatically improved the lives of patients suffering from rare genetic diseases, from renal diseases, multiple sclerosis, orthopedic disorders, burns, and cancer. Henry received many honors and awards over the years, but I'd just like to highlight a few. In 1999, he was named a Fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. In 2005, on behalf of Genzyme, Henry accepted the National Medal of Technology and Innovation, the highest honor awarded by the President of the United States for technological innovation. Also in 2005, Henry was elected to honorary fellowship in the British Royal College of Physicians, an honor I suspect is pretty unusual for an economist and entrepreneur. Henry served on the boards of directors of several biotech companies and advised many more. However, his insights were also sought after in the non-for-profit world. He was a member of the boards of trustees of MIT, of Mass General, of Partners Healthcare, and he was a member of the Board of Fellows at Harvard Medical School. What you may not know is Henry was also a long-time and ardent supporter of the Biomedical Sciences Careers Program run by Dr. Joan Reed at Harvard Medical School, which provides minority students with the support and guidance needed for successful careers in medical science. In 2002, Henry was the driving force behind the founding of NEHI, the New England Healthcare Institute, more recently renamed the Network for Excellence in Healthcare Innovation. NEHI is a highly regarded nonpartisan research and policy organization dedicated to finding innovative solutions to urgent healthcare problems. It was founded on the belief that changing healthcare requires leadership, vision, and again, importantly, collaboration. Henry led the charge to bring together a number of high-profile healthcare leaders from academia, from biotech, from pharma, from our hospital systems, and from our payers. These included people like Joe Martin, who at the time was the dean of Harvard Medical School, Sam Thier, who was then the CEO of Partners Healthcare, and the CEO of Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, a guy named Charlie Baker. If you'll indulge me for a moment, I'd like to add a few personal thoughts regarding Henry. He was a charismatic leader and a true visionary. Robert Kennedy famously said, "There are those who look at things the way they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not." I think this quote describes Henry quite accurately, though Henry was much too humble to ever describe himself in such a way. But Henry didn't stop after asking the question, why not? He frequently said, "With opportunity comes responsibility." And he took such responsibilities very seriously. He said, if we can create medicines to help people, it's our responsibility to do so, no matter how difficult. He always made it very clear that everything we did must center around doing better by patients. That was our responsibility. He brought together smart people. He fostered multidisciplinary teamwork and collaboration. The focus always being on how can we rapidly but responsibly deliver new treatments to help patients. We all believed in this mission, and we were all very proud to be a part of it. Henry was also very generous with his time on the individual level. Indeed, I think many of us consider him our mentor, including many current biotech CEOs and senior executives, a number of whom are in this room this morning. Henry's often described as the father of the biotech industry in the greater Boston area, and indeed beyond. And that wasn't just because of what he did at Genzyme, but it was largely because of his mentorship and friendship to so many people who followed him in what was then the nascent biotech industry. In April, I met with Belinda and Henry, along with Dr. Haber and Shalini Valabhan from ACS CAN, to discuss today's program. Dr. Haber described several recent breakthroughs in cancer treatments and noted that we now know more about the origins of many cancers, and more importantly, we now have the tools to allow us to learn even more and to develop more effective treatments. Shalini and I discussed ACS CAN's advocacy priorities, particularly around not only stopping the proposed healthcare cuts that you heard about, but pushing for additional funds to allow work on the Cancer Moonshot Initiative to proceed as expeditiously as possible. Henry has been a long-time strong supporter of funding for the NIH and the NCI. He appreciated the importance of collaboration between researchers and academia to create new discoveries and industry to advance those discoveries and bring new medicines forward. It was clear to Henry and Belinda at that meeting that now we had the tools to advance the field. And again, this opportunity then created a responsibility. And Henry said several times during that meeting, now is the moment. I think he intended to share that message this morning. He said, we need to set bold goals, and we must find ways to dramatically advance research and to finish the fight. We don't have any other choice. Now is the moment. During a subsequent phone call in early May, I asked Henry if there was anything he wanted me to say when I introduced him this morning. He only said, and I quote, we only wanted to do stuff that had an impact, that makes a difference, stuff that translates, that helps patients. Clearly, Henry accomplished that goal. He made contributions that will live on forever, and indeed will continue to grow through the contributions of the legions he mentored and through the contributions of the thousands of patients who have gone on to lead productive lives because of the transformative medicines he played a role in developing. I'd now like to ask Belinda and Adriana Termier to come forward to accept this award, which honors both Belinda's and Henry's work. It reads, the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network gratefully recognizes Henry and Belinda Termier for your leadership and passion to catalyze cancer research and innovation. June 12, 2017.
On behalf of my mom and dad, I'd like to thank you for this honor. My parents have inspired me through the work that they've done to support cancer research. When I was 6 years old, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Because I was so young, I did not truly understand what was going on. I remember going with my mom to Mass General Hospital for one of her radiation treatments. This scared me. All I knew was that I loved my mother and that she was hurting. Thankfully, today we can call her a survivor. She and my father have dedicated their lives to research and cancer in the healthcare industry, so that many other people can call themselves survivors too. A countless number of patients have been treated at the Termier Center for Targeted Therapies for life-saving treatments. I am so incredibly proud that they have made this possible. I wish my father could have been here today to receive this honor with my mother. I am sure that he would have loved to see some of the people that he had impacted. He makes me so proud. He devoted his life towards helping others because he had to, because he loved helping people. The work that my parents have done is so inspiring, and we should all work towards their goal, finding a cure.
Thank you, Mark, for that heartfelt and beautiful tribute. And thank you to Belinda and Adriana for your family's lifelong commitment to working towards improved cancer prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and care. Adriana, you are an amazingly poised and beautiful and brave young woman, so thank you for speaking up. And our condolences to you both. So despite our varied speakers, we've had politicians, survivors, researchers, family members, I'm sure you have noticed a theme throughout the remarks this morning, that it is imperative for all of us as individuals, companies, healthcare institutions, to urge policymakers to protect and increase federal funding for cancer research, not decrease it. Our ability to advance the development of better treatments, diagnostics, and prevention efforts are within our reach, and the availability of resources must keep pace with the scientific opportunities that are clearly within our grasp. There's no doubt that there is strength when our voices come together. If you would like to learn more about the ACS CAN, you can please reach out to the volunteers or staff in the room that has that listed on their name tags. And they want me to remind you that it only takes a few seconds to make sure that elected officials hear your voice by signing the petition on your table, asking Congress to increase federal research funding. Don't forget to share with your colleagues and friends about this important issue. And because it's 2017, you can always find us on social media and tweet, post, and otherwise share anything valuable that you've learned today. On behalf of the American Cancer Society and ACS CAN, our thanks go to all of our speakers and our sponsors. Thanks go out to each and every one of you for your support, your generosity, and your commitment to more cancer research. Thank you for having me be here with you this morning. Have a great day and a great rest of your week.